大家好，这里是听广播学英语频道。今天要了解一下走线的中国移民，我宁愿在路上死去。这一期播客探讨了一个日益增长的趋势，越来越多的中国移民选择通过拉丁美洲一条危险的路线前往美国，希望能过上更好的生活，并逃离中国国内的种种困境。那么，我们要开始听这个节目了。
Hello, I'm Shang Yuan, and today on Business Daily.We're traveling to Latin America, where a growing number of Chinese people are joining an established migrant route to the United States in search of a better life.
有的时候人生就得做出选择。
Sometimes you have to make decisions in your life. Going back to that place is a nightmare. I'd rather die instead of going back.
危险，宁愿死在路上，我也不回去。
I'll take you on part of that journey. It covers thousands of miles and is fraught with danger. Jungles, corrupt policemen,criminal gangs, and border guards. And we'll hear from those who've already made it.
没有后悔，但是有落差，确实。
There is no regret, but I didn't imagine there would be so many new Chinese migrants. This has been very difficult, and I haven't been able to find any work for the past month.
躺了1个月。
That's the Chinese migrant trail through Latin America on Business Daily from the BBC World Service. Starting late last year, due to a slowing economy and a challenging political environment, a growing number of Chinese people began to leave China for the U.S. Many of them are young. Youth unemployment in China is running at around 20%. The economy, which for years was expanding rapidly, has never really recovered from the strict lockdowns of the COVID pandemic. I traveled to Quito, the capital of Ecuador, to track an increasingly popular way for Chinese migrants to get to the United States.A bustling city sitting on high altitude, Quito is a place that many Chinese migrants had never even heard of. From here, they travel north through Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, and Mexico before a final push towards the United States. For years, it's been an established route for South Americans and other migrants fleeing economic or political instability. Haitians, Venezuelans, but also Africans and people from the Middle East have all made the trip.Now, facing similar situations at home, many Chinese are undertaking this perilous and previously unimaginable journey. They start in Ecuador because it's the closest country to the U.S. in the Americas that doesn't require a visa for Chinese travelers. This is Lu. He came from southern China and arrived in Quito in early May with hope of reaching the U.S.
I'm very disappointed in the general environment in China.The society in China is built on entering through the back door. It's difficult to do anything without some sort of a connection.
Like many, he first heard about this option from Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok. As we walk on the streets of Quito before he embarked on this journey, he said that living in China was difficult, and that when he decided to try to reach the U.S. from South America, he didn't tell his parents.
They are against this.Because their mindset has been constrained, and they don't really understand anything about other countries. Honestly, I don't have many skills. I'll just play it by ear when I get there. Even if I really can't make it work, staying there for a few years to improve my English and expanding horizon, I wouldn't call it a failure. I just did some calculations. Ticket cost me about 15,000 yuan.And other expenses were about 3,000 yuan. In total, it was getting closer to 20,000 yuan.
That's nearly 3,000 US dollars. Lu isn't the only one traveling during my stay in Quito. I met a couple dozen Chinese hoping to get to the US. The reasons behind the departure from China are incredibly diverse. But the recurring theme is to find life with dignity, something they say was not present in China.And for that dignity, they're willing to sacrifice life. This is James and two other people whom he was traveling from China. I met them at a hotel in Quito.
有的时候人生就得做出选择。你回到那个地方。
Sometimes you have to make decisions in your life. Going back to that place is a nightmare. I'd rather die instead of going back. This road, even though it's so dangerous, I'd rather die on the road than going back. Going back?You don't even have the basic dignity of a human being in that country.
If you continue to live in China, you don't think you're going to have a life with dignity?
It's nothing about dignity at this point. The basic right to life can't even be guaranteed.
At home, I don't usually worry about the small things and let my family decide. But when it comes to decisive issues, once I've decided, they can't do anything to change my mind. So even though they didn't agree, they still asked me to take care of myself and said it would be difficult on the road.
Do you still remember what you did with them in the days before you left?
I didn't dare to see them. It was heartbreaking. I even felt like that was a forever goodbye.
Was it worth it?
Yes.
They are not the only ones who have summoned the courage and determination to go on this journey. Yifan is also one of them. A young man from a coastal province of China, he said that even though dangers lie ahead, he needs to continue with his pursuit for a better life.
Coming to Ecuador was only the first step, and the next step is Mexico, and the third step is climbing over the wall to reach the US. Now we no longer have those extremely high or low emotions. We are quite calm. The most important thing is the life we want to get. We would push towards the end for that.
Is there anything in particular that you are worried about?
Friends have told us before that there are lots of bandits and corrupt cops on the road. But again, the most important thing, as we learned in school, is that if you are a pony wanting to cross the river, you can't blindly listen to dogs or elephants. You just go ahead and try it out yourself.
Sure. But right before they leave, they have one more thing to finish. Get a yellow fever vaccine. We're now standing in front of the health center in Quito. A lot of Chinese migrants are queuing up to get their yellow fever vaccine, especially in preparation for the jungles in Panama.
Because when crossing the tropical forest, we might be infected with yellow fever. We are afraid of death, so we wanted to get the vaccines too as a precaution.
It's about 7:30 a.m. right now in Quito, and 4 of them are probably leaving today. They're going to the bus station in about half an hour. We just boarded the bus with them to Tulcan, the border town between Ecuador and Colombia. The bus ride itself is going to take about 4.5 hours. It's also the first stretch of this long overland journey ahead. There has been a sharp rise in the numbers of Chinese taking this route. United States Customs and Border Protection reported a staggering surge of close to 18,000 Chinese migrants along the southwest border in the 10 months to July, an all-time high. That's up from 2,000 in the previous 12 months. But it's still a small proportion of the total. 2 million people have approached the border this year. I've tried to get the Chinese official view of this type of migration, approaching the embassies in Quito and Washington for comment, but have not received a response yet. We're now at the bus terminal in Medellin, the second biggest city in Colombia. And the migrants just finished a 26-hour journey from Tulcan, the border town between Ecuador and Colombia. And now they're waiting for another bus to go to Necoclí, which is the entry point to the jungles in Panama. And that bus is going to take them about 10 hours.
I just want to cry now.
This is Yifan again, along with a few of his traveling companions.
It was already difficult enough, but we encountered those police flagrantly asking for money from us. Not just asking for money, but also searching for the cash that we had hidden. Everyone was probably taken for a few $100s. The most despicable thing is when they searched inside women's sanitary pads, and they even searched for money under your underwear. Absolutely despicable.
How much did you give the cops?
Only $20. I had hidden just over $100 in my backpack, so I only gave them because I had hidden some bills inside. I hoped that they would not fit through my passport, but they still did, and took away the dollar bills I hid inside. I don't have money left. Search all they want. None of us has money anymore.
I gave him $10, but he wasn't satisfied and shot his head. And then he started to go through my bag. Because I didn't do much preparation, I found $40 I had in my bag, so he could take away those.
Are you worried about the next leg from here to Nicocoli? Once they leave Colombia, they confront arguably the most treacherous part of the journey. It's known as the Darian Gap, a rainforest that connects South and Central America at the border with Panama. It's filled with raging rivers, commanding mountains, dangerous terrain, and gangsters. It takes days to hike through and requires a high level of physical and mental resolve. I met some Chinese migrants when they emerged from the jungle on the Panama side.
The rainforest was so difficult to pass. After this time, I would never ever want to walk in the rainforest again.
And you have to walk across the rivers, so you need the people to guide you as well. Otherwise, you'd get lost. There are guys who'd sneak around to make sure you are all right. When we ran out of money, we tried to borrow money from some South Americans, and they said yes.
They lent us $200, otherwise we wouldn't have been able to make it out.
They didn't ask for any deposit or anything. And some locals in the jungles asked us to sell our stuff in order to get some money. We sold our phones. He had to sell his phones, so a local could carry his kid. We sold our old phones for carrying the kid.
These migrants also told me that the road was difficult inside the jungle, and that they had to climb 4 big and steep mountains where the terrain was muddy and had no protection whatsoever. Every day, dozens of Chinese migrants emerge out of the jungle, along with hundreds of migrants of different nationalities. From Darian Gap, their journey is defined by one bus ride to another. Crossing one border almost every other day, these migrants will soon reach the U.S.-Mexico border, where they will make their final push towards the U.S. They expect to be detained by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers before being temporarily released while waiting for a decision on their asylum claims. Fast forward to the other end of the journey. In New York, another Chinese migrant has already made it. I met him in Brooklyn, where he now lives and is waiting for the adjudication of his asylum claim. For him, this past month's journey was filled with danger, but he believes it was the best decision he's ever made in his entire life.
来到美国第一刻开始啊，就是我知道我想要什么，我知道大概知道美国会给我什么，感觉这就是我应得的。
From the moment I got to the US, I knew what I wanted and what the US could offer me, and I felt that I deserved it. Blue skies and not having to worry about coyotes, bandits, or corrupt cops. I really feel I am free now. I'll think about which state I want to live in the future and to which community, whether I want to get out of Chinese community. I definitely want to get out of Flushing and Brooklyn's Chinese communities. As soon as I get the opportunity, I want to leave. Once I get the permission to work, I try my best to go to other places. A lot of Chinese cannot get the idea of making money out of their head, and there is no concept of freedom. I don't really have a lot of common grounds with them. During the entire journey, there was only one I could chat with.
其他人跟我就没有共同语言。
我想再问一下关于纽约，你现在也说工作也不好找，然后但一路过来你还是觉得In New York, you said it was difficult to find work, but you still think the excitement and freedom dominated. Is there any regret at all?
没有，除了想念家里人以外，就是偶尔想念家里人以外。
Not at all. Except for occasionally I'd miss my family and my friends. There is no regret, but of course there is a drop of expectation. I didn't imagine there would be so many new Chinese migrants, but it's been very difficult, and I haven't been able to find any work for the past month.
In California, a gay man from China's Henan province, who asked not to be named, is also relieved to tell me that he made it out of China and that he could feel comfortable and free in his sexual orientation in the U.S.
他父母总是觉得啊，你看人谁谁家孩子又怎样，我的天啊！然后我还跟他讲。
My parents would always compare me to other kids. I used to debate with them, but they wouldn't really listen. They'd say of this person or that person, he's poor, but still managed to get married and have kids. Damn, isn't this wrong? If they had kids, what would happen to the kids? Their kids would enjoy the worst healthcare, worst education, and themselves would get the worst care for the elderly as well. But there is no point debating with them because the mindsets from two generations are not on the same level anymore. So chatting with them would only lead to argument. So it's better not to talk about any of these. The best thing is for them not to have too high of an expectation of me. For me, at least I made the first step. It's probably not the case where I've broken free from all of the shackles, but I'm heading in the right direction. I don't know where I am, but I'll keep going on.
就只能是这样，没有别的办法。
A record number of Chinese migrants are still crossing the borders as I speak, and the journey isn't getting any safer, especially as the rainy season is in full swing in the jungles in Panama. With the Chinese economy still faltering, and with young people in China struggling to find work, many more are likely to make the trip. And for those who embark on this journey, they believe this is the only way to a better life. That's all from this edition of Business Daily on the BBC World Service. I'm Sean Yuan. Thanks for listening.